There's a really hard way to use intermittent fasting, and then there's the really smart way to use intermittent fasting. And the smart way makes intermittent fasting a lot easier to use as well. Today I'm breaking down the details of how to use intermittent fasting the smart way so that you can start achieving your wellness and weight loss goals in today's video. If you're new here, my name's Autumn and I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. On my channel, I talk a lot about different tips and strategies on how you can use intermittent fasting to achieve your weight loss or wellness goals. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Okay, let's first talk a bit about the hard way because a lot of people are using it. Now, especially in a lot of the earlier days of intermittent fasting, which fasting has been used for centuries, but in the more recent times when it's become more popular, there's a lot of talk about how you can just use intermittent fasting as a way to eat whatever you want, but still lose weight. And I think that this messaging still gets seeped into today's conversations because you do definitely get a lot of benefits from just the fasting period. I mean, just the studied benefits alone show that fasting helps to improve insulin levels, which is our fat storing hormone, which in turn helps to improve fat burning. Not to mention the plethora of other benefits like reduced bloating, increased energy levels, and of course boosted mental clarity that a lot of people are experiencing with intermittent fasting. But here's what happens if you eat whatever you want, and in this case I'm talking about a lot of processed foods and sugars. You actually reverse a lot of those benefits that you get from intermittent fasting because you start to cause a really big spike in those storing hormone insulins during your eating window. This is actually one of the biggest mistakes I see all the time, why people aren't losing weight with intermittent fasting, or if they're even gaining weight with intermittent fasting. There's no attention paid to the actual eating window. This results in unstable blood glucose levels, which cause insulin to spike and fat burning to be completely turned off. Something else that often happens as well is that this method will make you a lot more hungry during that fasted state. Because when you get those really big spikes in blood glucose, it inevitably results in a really big fall in blood glucose levels. That fall, which can be called hypoglycemia, results in that insatiable hunger as well as those increased sugar cravings, which makes that fasting period impossible to stick to long term. Not to mention this spike in fall in blood glucose levels can also result in a spike in the stress hormone cortisol, and higher levels of that stress hormone cortisol are strongly tied to weight gain around the belly. Now, all of this can make weight loss very difficult and make you very hungry in the process, making this the very hard way to use intermittent fasting. Now, the smart way to use intermittent fasting is to pair it with highly satiating foods. And note, I am not talking about calorie restriction here. In fact, if you want the details of why I don't recommend solely calorie restriction paired with intermittent fasting, you can check out this video right here. Now, what we're doing with satiating foods paired with a fasting period with intermittent fasting is actually mimicking a lot of what the intermittent fasting benefits are, because highly satiating foods are also inherently not going to cause a really big spike in that storing hormone insulin. So if we look at the types of foods that are the most satiating, protein is number one. Protein does cause a little bit of a spike in the storing hormone insulin, but not nearly as much as those highly processed and refined carbohydrates. Protein stimulates the satiety hormone peptide YY, and fat is the next most satiating food. Fat stimulates the satiety hormone cholecystokinin or CCK. And then the last really important component is fiber. And the last really important component is fiber. Fiber acts on that stretch mechanism within the stomach, and that signals to your brain that you're full and satisfied and you don't need to eat. All three of those are highly important, but especially the protein and fat components when you are looking to feel satiated. So not only will this help to make it so that you are not hungry, in fact, when you properly get enough protein and fat, typically this causes the body to feel satisfied and not hungry for about 4 hours. But it also helps to greatly reduce the sugar cravings by helping to stabilize those blood glucose levels. And in turn, because it's not causing those big spikes in blood glucose, it's also not greatly activating insulin to be released. And because you don't have to eat as frequently during your eating window because those meals are so satiating, it also allows insulin to naturally dip back down between meals. Not to mention when you get those low blood sugar moments, like with that hard way of using intermittent fasting, that can result in extreme mood swings, aka hanger. I think we've all been there. So by stabilizing those blood glucose levels, you also don't get those negative effects of hunger too. So feeling more satisfied, not getting those mood swings or hunger, and better utilizing fat as fuel, that is definitely the smarter way of using intermittent fasting. Some of my favorite proteins include using Greek yogurt or fish, chicken, eggs, lentils, beef. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with getting high quality sources of protein. And then there's a plethora of different high quality fats that can be used as well. olives, avocados, a bunch of different nuts and seeds, various dairy products like grass-fed ghee or butter, and of course the various coconut products too. And putting this all together in one highly satiating meal that you can break your fast with or have during your intermittent fasting eating window could be meals like my Spanish meatballs or Greek yogurt parfaits or cauliflower rice burrito bowls. There's a lot of different directions you can go with this and make foods that are also going to taste good in the process. In fact, if you want 7 intermittent fasting recipes to get you started, I have a free download that you can check out in the description down below. And if you're wondering how all of this looks with a fasting period and an eating window using satiating meals, you can check out one of my most recent What I Eat in a Day videos right here. Also, if you're new here and you love the science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out with new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.